Hey guys, it's me, Saran, back with another video. Super early. Making this video about Nicki Minaj, which you guys all knew that I was gonna make as soon as those tweets started rolling last night. So yesterday, MTV announced their VMAs, their Video Music Award nominations. I don't give a fuck about that shit, because I know it's gonna be white supremacist bullshit, which you guys have seen me talk about now in my Grammy videos and in my Oscar videos. It was the same thing with the Billboard Music Awards, where the Australian Voldemort won a whole bunch of stuff. But the VMAs were announced, and Nicki Minaj did not get nominated for Anaconda, for her Anaconda video, and she was also not nominated for Best Collaboration for the Feeling Myself video with Beyonce. A bunch of other female artists were nominated, but they were all white. One of those artists was Taylor Swift. So basically what happened was the noms were announced, and a lot of people were saying that the list was very whitewashed, like every single list has been, the 2014-2015 award season. People started immediately saying, that the list was whitewashed, and that we're consistently seeing white artists doing, black music, and get rewarded. Meanwhile, we see black artists that do the same type of music constantly getting overlooked. Again, these are all things that we've talked about in other videos. There will be, I don't know if you guys have noticed, but I've been utilizing cards. So there's an eye in the corner. If you click that, you can see all the previous videos that I've kind of done related to this, and I will also include them in the description box. But basically, a lot of people started immediately talking about how, these end of year lists are whitewashed. Like I said, I've already talked extensively about how the lists are whitewashed, the industries are whitewashed, and, how we kind of have to stop supporting these endeavors and buying into this stuff, because it's all a part of these white supremacist systems that are meant to, reward whiteness and kick us black people to the curb. So basically, Nicki Minaj ended up sending out this long series of tweets, which I have some of them here. And basically her tweets were talking about the same thing, talking mostly about structural racism in the industry, but doing it in a very, very fucking, shady McGrady-ass way. She said, "I'm not always confident, just tired. Black women influence pop culture so much, but are rarely rewarded for it," which is very true. If I was a different kind of artist, and she put kind in quotes, so like if I was a different kind of artist, Anaconda would be nominated for Best Choreo and Video of the Year as well. Where's some more? It's not loading. Okay, well, they're not all loading for some reason, but you get the gist. Basically, she was tweeting about how if she were a white artist, if she were making the same exact type of music, but if she were a white artist, she, her videos and her work would be more recognized, by the mainstream media and by these mainstream music awards. These award ceremonies ain't shit. And basically, Nicki Minaj got her Negro wake-up call last night. Now, at the same time that she was sending out these series of tweets, at literally the same exact time, the arrest footage, the dash cam video of Sandra Bland, I hope I'm pronouncing her name right. I hope it's Sandra and not Sandra. Someone can feel free to let me know in the comment section. Sandra Bland, the dash cam video of her arrest was released. So the timeline, I was on Twitter and on Tumblr, and my timeline was evenly split between people talking about Sandra Bland and people talking about Nicki Minaj and structural racism within the music industry. Somebody had tweeted yo, my timeline is all over the place right now, because literally at the exact same time this Sandra Bland footage dropped. So one thing that I saw happening that I want to address before I even really get into Nicki Minaj's tweets and kind of what happened with her tweets and certain white pop stars that jumped in with their white bullshit feminism and this and that, something that I want to address before I even get into that is that people immediately started talking shit about anyone that was discussing Nicki Minaj's tweets. People started talking about who gives a fuck about the VMAs, we should be talking about Sandra Bland, we should be talking about the dash cam footage, we should be doing this, we should be doing that. I hate that. I find it silly and annoying as fuck because both things can be important. They are not mutually exclusive, and people can care about both things. This is just like when we're talking about, structural racism and police brutality, and somebody has to swoop in the conversation talking about, but what about black on black crime, which is not a thing. It's like there's this sliding scale, right? There's this sliding scale of racism, right? Where people act like certain things are more important and other things are less important, and we can only care about one thing all of the time, and that's not the way that it works. This is not like when you go to the doctor's office and you step up on the scale and they have the weights and they're sliding them around until shit gets even, because one thing weighs more and one thing weighs less. People can care about all the issues at once. People can also walk and talk and chew gum at the same time. Yes, I know, it's a crazy concept, it's a crazy idea, but it's true. A lot of you guys I know are new subscribers, but one of my older videos is that racism is like an octopus. And basically what that means is that racism is this big, huge monster with all these arms and all these tentacles. And there are so many different things that make up racism, especially on a structural, a systemic, and an institutional level, that it doesn't make sense to focus on only one tentacle while leaving all of the rest of them unattended, okay? So the same exact thing that we're discussing when we talk about the death of Sandra Bland is the same thing that we're talking about when we're talking about, the erasure of black women, and when we're talking about all these issues with black women in art, and when we're talking about all these issues with whitewashing, and that is racism, okay? It's all racism. So we need to stop with this "we can only do one thing at a time" type of rhetoric, because it's silly. It's really silly to me. Like, we can talk about more than one thing at once. We can care about more than one thing at once. Caring about one thing doesn't mean we don't care about other things, And this was really kind of highlighted by a tweet that I saw that was sent out by this white guy. I think his name is Michael Skolnick or something like that. And he's the founder of Global Grind, which I did not know that Global Grind was founded and headed by a white person, but I guess I shouldn't be surprised. Basically, he tweeted that he didn't care about the VMAs. He's like, I don't care about the VMAs, I care about Sandra Bland. And a lot of people were echoing that sentiment. When I saw that tweet, I was like, this is wrong on like so many levels. And he ended up getting checked, obviously. But I felt like this is wrong on so many levels because, first of all, one, this is very typical, white male privilege to jump into that space with his opinion as neither black nor female, right? We have these two situations right now that are happening really simultaneously that both involve black females and structural racism, and that's the Sandra Bland thing and the Nicki Minaj thing. So you, as neither black nor a female, you don't have the right to come into this space and to tell black people you shouldn't care about the VMAs, you should care about Sandra Bland. You can keep your white male opinions to yourself. Like, you can have your opinion, of course, but you cannot come tell black people the way that we need to respond to racism and this and that. And this is something you see a lot with white people, even people that consider themselves to be white allies, is that they set themselves up as some type of leader and authority on racism. Like, they can tell black people, what we should and shouldn't be concerned about and this and that. So he immediately started getting checked. He started getting checked like, yo, you white guy don't get to decide what the important topics are on race for black people to discuss. Like, I don't give a fuck if you run Global Grind. You don't get to decide that, And he was getting checked, and he ended up apologizing, the same as fucking Andy Cohen after he fucking called Amanda Steinberg, a jackhole when she exposed fucking Norma Desmond, aka Kylie Jenner, when she exposed her ass, and he tried to come for her. He ended up apologizing, and they almost said the same exact thing. The Global Grind dude said almost the same thing as the Andy Cohen dude, like, oh, I don't understand the larger cultural context of this conversation. I thought it was just about an award, and now I see that it's bigger than that. So let me backtrack on 1,000 and fucking delete these tweets. I hate a fucking backtracker. I just want you guys to know that. If you're gonna say some shit, at least stand by your fucking shit. Because you fucking didn't give a fuck when you tweeted that shit out, but now you fucking can't take the heat and you're backtracking. Like, I gave that backtrack a 7 or 8. Like, you as a white male need to know your place and stay in your fucking lane, bro. Bro. Dude, bro. But anyways, people immediately started checking him. And one of the tweets from someone that checked him, from a black woman, she really illuminated the bigger picture of the issues with saying, you know, well, this Nicki Minaj thing is not important. This VMA thing is not important. We should, like, specifically only talk about Sandra Bland. And the tweet, I have it here, was Chrissy Cole, at Michael Skolnick, whatever. She put, we all care about what happened to Sandra, but what's happening to Nicki right now is also, she put that in caps, also violence against black women. That is the point. That is the bigger picture. Nobody cares about the fucking award. Nobody cares about the VMAs. I'm pretty sure Nicki Minaj doesn't even give a fuck about the VMAs. None of us care. We all know that it's a white supremacist bullshit reward system, and that all these award shows are fucking on their way out anyway, that all of them are about generating ratings and controversy, and none of this shit is legit. No one cares about the award. It's not about the award. It is about violence against black women. It is about systemic and structural racism of a particular type, intersectionality, where race and gender intersect, that is enacted against black women and women of color in general, but especially black women specifically, okay? We all know the award show is white supremacist nonsense. Because I have people hitting me up talking about, like, oh, this is not important, blah, blah, blah. Like, we all know that the award show is white supremacist nonsense. We all know that Nicki, as much as I like her, because I do like her, richly deserves this Negro wake-up call, which is clearly what this shit is. Just like how Beyonce got hers last year from the Grammys, when they did not nominate her album for shit except Best Urban Contemporary Album. That was her getting her Negro wake-up call, and yet they still went forward with the title bullshit, and God only knows why. But this is obviously these people receiving their Negro wake-up call that, listen, look, no matter how much these, little pop kids like you, and these white kids, and no matter how much they walk around talk about feeling myself, and I woke up like this, which is what Norma Desmond captured her picture with the cornrows, no matter how much these people pretend they like you, no matter how much money they put in your pockets, no matter how nice they are, that you're still a Negro and they're still white, and you still gonna get your Negro wake-up call when this award ceremony time comes around, and they still gonna reward white mediocrity over you, because it is violence against black people. It is violence against black women specifically. It is erasure of black women. It is erasure of black art. It is a way to delegitimize our work and what we do. That is what this is about. This is not about no fucking nobody gives a fuck about the VMAs. That's not what this is about. I'm gonna need you guys to see the bigger picture, that what killed Sandra Bland is the same exact thing that, left Nicki Minaj out of the VMA nominations. And it's racism. It's racism and it's discrimination, and it touches us at every avenue of life, not just in the big stuff like Sandra Bland, but in the little stuff as well. It touches us, it touches us. It touches every aspect of our lives. And that's what this is about. That's what this is about. Racism, structural racism, violence against black women, whether we are being violently arrested and killed, or whether we are being discriminated against in our workplaces like Nicki Minaj, because this is her workplace, this is her job. It is about structural racism. It is about systems that reward whiteness and, erase, overlook, and punish blackness, okay? Racism is like an octopus. Many tentacles, many different levels, many different platforms, many ways of affecting us. And again, the same thing that killed Sandra Bland is what we are discussing with Nicki Minaj. Systemic and structural racism that affects black women on all levels. And I really want that to sink in, right? Because you guys can't only care when we're talking about somebody that was arrested, pulled out of cars, and murdered. You guys also have to recognize the same exact systems that are in play when we are overlooked and discriminated against in our jobs or in artistic endeavors, because it's the same part of the Hydra. It's the same part of the, the many-headed beast, the octopus, the many-tentacled beast. It's huge. It's really huge, and it really touches every part of our lives, and that's what we need to be discussing. So in addition to that, this also blew up because in the midst of Nicki Minaj tweeting about structural and systemic racism within the music industry, Taylor Swift decided to jump in. Why? I don't know. I couldn't fucking tell you. I guess she started feeling that guilt. Basically, Taylor Swift decided to jump in. Mid-tweet, Taylor jumps in talking about, oh, this is so unlike you. I have some shit here. I think I have some of her stuff here. Where is it? So basically, Taylor Swift decided to jump in mid-tweet as Nicki Minaj was going. You know, she's talking about, she was talking about the structural racism and also the, you know, talking about how certain body types and things like that are also celebrated in mainstream media and during the mainstream award seasons. And Taylor decided to jump in like a fucking hit dog hollering, even though nobody mentioned her specifically, nobody called her out by name, nobody added her. She decided to fucking insert herself into this conversation that Nicki Minaj was having. And she said, "I've done nothing but love and support you. It's unlike you to pit women against each other. Maybe one of the men took your slot." Basically saying, like, I don't understand this conversation. I don't understand why you're complaining about, you know, the VMA nominations, because there are a lot of women that were nominated, and you're pitting women against each other by making this about race instead of being happy that there are a lot of women, you know, that were nominated. And then she kind of threw another little jab in, like, oh, maybe one of the men that was nominated is someone that took your spot. Typical white feminist bullshit of making this into, why does everything have to be about race? Why does everything have to be about race, Nicki? Why does it have to be about race? Why does it be? It's about gender. It's about gender. It's about gender, Nicki. It's not about race. It's not about race. You know, basically making it like into typical white feminist bullshit of why do you have to, you know, you're being divisive. You're being divisive. You're being divisive, and you're pitting women against each other, and you should just be happy that, you know, the nominees are full of women. Who cares if they're all white? Who cares if Black women are erased for the work that they do in, you know, in mainstream media and in art and in pop culture? You know, Black people and Black culture drive the popular culture in America, and we have driven the popular culture in America for at least the last 50 to 60 years, and yet we do not receive any type of just due. We do not receive any type of recognition. We do not receive any type of monetary fucking compensation, because that's really all I care about. People tell me all the time, like, oh, but we should be happy because the influence, I don't give a fuck about no fucking influence. I don't care. I don't care about influence. When fucking you have these white-owned huge companies like fucking Urban Outfitters and Nasty Gal putting on fleek on fucking $25 beanies, they're making money. They're making money off of our culture. We're not getting shit back. And you know I am all about the money. Money talks and motherfucking bullshit walks. And we don't get shit out of this. It's parasitic, the way that white culture leeches off of Black culture. And then you have Nicki Minaj who's pointing it out, and in comes the fucking white feminist brigade talking about you being divisive. Everything can't be about white girls all the time, Taylor. Everything can't be about y'all all the time, okay? Is it cool that there are a lot of women nominated? Sure. That still doesn't erase the problematic nature of the way that we view Black art, and especially Black art that is created by females. And you can't just throw your hands up in the air and say gender over race. You can only do that because you are white and you don't think about race and you don't see it, right? This bitch Taylor fucking jumped on Nicki's timeline talking all this smack about being divisive, even though Nicki did not address her. She didn't address anyone specifically. She was just, again, talking about the structural racism that exists within the industry and within the pop culture, right? Like, she's tweeting about how an entire industry, a system, is racist. And in comes Becky talking about you being divisive. It was just typical white feminist bullshit. Typical white feminist bullshit where a Black woman speaks about racism and a white woman asks her, I'm sorry, not racism, but misogynoir, that special place where racism and sexism intersect for Black women and other women of color. But A black woman is speaking out about misogyny, and a white woman asks her to ignore her race in favor of her gender, right? Basically just asking her to be happy that so many women were nominated for Best Video and Video of the Year, even though they were all white. She's asking Nicki to ignore racism in favor of feminism, right? And that is the fucking problem with white feminism. That is why it is white feminist bullshit, because yes, they ask us to ignore race in favor of gender, but we can't ignore race because it affects the way we live our lives. It affects the way we work. It like I just said earlier, it is an octopus, it is a many-headed beast, it is a hydra, it is something that touches us on every level. We cannot ignore it. We cannot ignore it. And it is only compounded by for me personally, it is only compounded by the fact that Sandra Bland dash cam was released at the same time. The Sandra Bland thing doesn't, X out the Nicki Minaj thing. It's only compounded. It's like, see, we're getting hit here. We're getting hit in this way over here. We're getting hit in that way over there. We're getting hit here. We're getting hit there. In comes the white feminist hitting us here and hitting us there. Like, we're taking it on all sides. And people really need to realize that and understand the certain perspective that black women are coming from when we talk about these issues. So I have some tweets written down that I wanted to read you guys before I get ready to close out. Feminista Jones, Taylor Swift just went full mainstream white feminist, no turning back now, hilarious. Nicki versus Taylor is angry black woman versus virtuous white women part. And they put a whole bunch of numbers, which I also want to jump in with that too, because as soon as fucking Taylor Swift walked her ass, over into Nicki Minaj's mentions, the media immediately took this story and ran with it and formed this angry black girl narrative talking about how Nicki is attacking Taylor Swift because she's mad over VMA nominations, which is really only skimming the surface of what is really going on, especially considering the fact that Nicki didn't even point out Taylor Swift specifically. She was talking about the industry, and Taylor inserted herself into the conversation. There was no article headlines that said nosy ass fucking blonde Becky decides to run up in somebody's mentions where she wasn't fucking called or needed. Nothing said that, They were running these articles with these stories of Nicki Minaj looking real crazy, like 5-6-year-old pictures of her with the crazy hair doing none of her more recent, at least the way she's been looking for the last year or so, pictures, and they were running them against the pictures of Taylor looking cute and sweet and innocent with the blonde hair and the angelic face. They immediately started running this narrative, the angry black woman trope, attacking the precious white woman, and we have to defend the precious white woman from the mean angry black girl who's just yelling at Taylor for no reason, even though Taylor was the one that instigated the conflict, right? And again, we see how racism is structural, how an institution, the media, the mainstream media can create, can form a narrative and run with it. But, luckily people are starting to wake up and get hip to the bullshit. So people start calling out, oh, hey, E News, fucking, what's his name from American Idol? Can't remember it, Ryan Seacrest. Hey, Ryan Seacrest, we see what you're fucking doing. Janet Mock, who's amazing, she retweeted E. They had put a post, one of those posts with a nice picture of Taylor next to the shitty picture of Nicki. Let's not do this. How about what if we flip these pictures and flip the narrative and put a picture of Taylor looking crazy with a picture of a recent picture of Nicki looking good. We're hip to the bullshit at this point. We're hip to the bullshit. This is what the media does, right? They love running with this angry black woman narrative. They love it. They love running with the angry black woman attacks the precious white queen narrative. Somebody said the same thing. I saw on Tumblr, somebody had made a post that said the same thing about Amanda and Norma Desmond, talking about, oh, Amanda attacks Kylie, aka Norma Desmond, and she is, angry. She's angry black girl. She's a jackhole. She's this, she's that. No one actually take the time to understand what the fuck she's saying. And now we see the same exact thing with Nicki. They're saying that she's an angry black woman attacking Taylor. No one is actually taking the time to pay attention to what she's actually saying. they try to spin this narrative about the angry, bitter black bitch attacking the innocent, virtuous, white queen. They're basically trying to manipulate the story so that instead of focusing on what these black women are actually saying about structural racism in our popular American culture, you can just focus on the beef and, just, oh, whatever, who cares, blah, blah, blah. Like, it matters. What they're saying matters. It is a part of the monster of racism, of systemic structural racism that affects us. So I have some other tweets that I want to read. And here it is, the media putting the angry black girl stereotype on Nicki, even though what she said was all true. And Nicki wasn't even mad. Like, her tweets weren't even angry. The award show means diddly squat to me, but the consistent lack of recognition... Oh, I'm sorry, I skipped something. The award show means diddly squat to me, but it's the consistent lack of recognition of black women's contributions to culture. Exactly. We do a lot for culture. And by we, I personally mean black women as well as black culture as a whole. We drive this culture, okay? A day doesn't go by without IHOP tweeting some crazy ass shit, which I have a video about, brand blackface. But no one's ever gonna say black people started that shit. And I want some money. Bitch better have my money for us fucking running this shit. This shit's getting annoying. Anything else? Any other tweets that I wanted to read? Yeah. Just ridiculous bullshit. The Nicki Taylor thing was ridiculous. Oh, it's not even shade to the other artists. It's just that Nicki is getting snubbed for doing the same thing they're winning awards for. And I've said this before about Nicki Minaj. I said the same thing in my fucking video about her only lyric video. When I said that Nicki is not the first person to ever use Nazi imagery. Nazi imagery in art is extremely common in visual art, in different types of mediums. Nazi imagery is not unheard of. Yet when Nicki did it, she got fucking piled on. If someone else had done it, it most likely would have been heralded as unique and amazing and creative. But when Nicki does it, again, Nicki gets snubbed for doing the same thing that other artists win awards for. And this is, across the spectrum of black art. Our art is viewed through a white gaze. It is not seen as legitimate. We have to jump through all these hoops to legitimize our art. Meanwhile, you see white people that emulate us and do the same thing, and they get awards and fucking stacks of money and this and that, thrown at them. Just like Omarosa said, I have to be exceptional. You get to be fucking mediocre and make cupcakes and get rewarded. That is true. That, in a nutshell, is how the shit works, And when Omarosa said that, people said the same thing, like, oh, she's making it into a big thing, this and that. It's like, no, racism and the system of white racism, white supremacy, and these structures and these institutions, they're self-sustaining, they're cyclical, and we're seeing it over and over on all these different levels. And that is what I want you guys to really get and to even get out of this video, like, I know that people are like, we have to focus, on Sandra Bland and police brutality, and of course we have to focus on that, but we also have to focus on stuff like this because it's all part of a bigger picture. It's all part of, understanding the vast nature of systemic and institutionalized racism and how it affects us, right? And I know a lot of you guys aren't gonna like this video because you guys never like when I make videos about Nicki Minaj or Rihanna or pop culture, a lot of you guys. And I also feel like that's because there's this like weird tinge of respectability politics when we talk about pop culture, like as if pop culture is not important, like as if, again, all this stuff is not another cog in the wheel of these systems that, make racism tick, right? There's people that, somebody left me a comment on some social media, somewhere, Twitter or somewhere, that said, like, Nicki has a valid point, but she shoots up her ass with ass shots, so she can't be saying that. What are you talking about? That's respectability politics. If she wants to shoot up her ass with ass shots, if she wants to walk around half naked, if she wants to fucking sing about taking anacondas and this and that, that does not mean that we ignore her points. That is respectability politics. That's saying that somebody has to do X, Y, and Z for me to listen to them, and y'all already know how I feel about that shit. I don't like it, I don't fuck with it, and I don't buy into that shit, right? I don't like that. People don't need to act a certain way, otherwise you're gonna invalidate what they say. Like, it's vicious, it's misogyny, 100%, and there are a lot of women and men that have this internalized misogyny where anytime a Nicki Minaj or a Rihanna or somebody like that opens their mouth, y'all say some sexist, disgusting bullshit to try to invalidate what they said, And again, you also have respectability politics, like as if, well, rap doesn't matter, music doesn't matter, pop culture doesn't matter, this doesn't matter, that doesn't matter, like as if the only thing that matters is police brutality, or, you know, no, all this shit is part of the inner workings of a larger system. And I've also said before that a lot of people don't recognize that it's part of a larger system, and instead we fetishize, you know, these individual cases of police brutality or these individual cases of just off the charts racism. We fetishize them. We turn them into torture porn. Like I said in my video, police brutality is not torture porn, because I saw people giving these long drawn out descriptions like, yes, I just watched that Sandra Bland dash cam video for the 57th time, and when he slammed her face into the like as if they're reliving it, like as if they're relishing it, like as if they're getting this almost a sense of pleasure, of pornographic, some type of, it's weird. It's weird to me. It's very strange to me the way that people individualize these cases instead of seeing them as part of a larger, broader picture about institutionalized racism and turn it into something, like, I don't like to say sexual, but it's almost like like I said, like people are getting a weird gratification from it. You can fetishize it. You can focus on this one name, this one instance, and then move on, right? No, we need to start really recognizing that all of this, just like I said in my Not Just SAE video, that all of this is part of a much larger, broader system, one that also includes what's happening to Nicki Minaj and what she's talking about, you know, and what the media is doing with this situation, and, you know, what the entire, you know, pop culture, American pop culture of loving black culture but hating and villainizing and murdering black people, all of that plays into it, you know. Like Azealia Banks said, the message is that black people, black artists, and especially black women artists, we ain't shit and we can't have shit. This is just another part of racism that is institutionalized, structural, and systemic. The same exact thing that killed Sandra Bland. And we really need to, you know, start seeing the bigger picture and start discussing things in terms of larger pictures and issues, because it's all important. Like I said, it's not a sliding scale of importance. Get that respectability politics shit out of here. Recognize that more than, you know, we can care about more than one thing at a time, and more than one thing matters, and that it's all, we're all, when we talk about discrimination in all these different ways and shapes and forms, it's all part of the same beast that we're fighting, you know. And one of my friends actually had retweeted, because I had like tweeted like, oh, do you guys remember my video, like racism is like an octopus, there's like all these different tentacles and different levels, and it doesn't make sense to only focus on one and completely ignore the rest. And my friend retweeted that like, oh, so necessary, people have to understand that it's all the same system, and each of these instances are tentacles on the same monster. Anyways, so yeah, that's it. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this one. I know you guys are going to go nuts in the comment section because I know a lot of y'all hate Nicki Minaj, but that's just how I feel about it. Food for thought as always. See you guys next time. Peace.